web soil survey or soil surveys. In the presentation, I would like to, and I'm gonna stop sharing let me do something here, my video, so it doesn't stop or use the bandwidth.
Yeah, same here. We have a little bit of internet connections today, so we apologize if you have to shut down video for a little while.
Yeah.
There you
So let me share the screen again. Sorry about that. Okay, share. Okie doke. So I would like to talk to you about just briefly USDA and RCS Caribbean Area Soils Division. What is soil survey? I like to also talk about the history of soil surveys in the Caribbean and in this case of the in the United States Virgin Islands. Also, it is important for me to talk a little bit about how soil surveys are made, right? This is a science that it involves different disciplines and also, you know, it's very unique. So it's important to tell people a little bit of how they are done. Also, I would like to visit about soil survey orders. These are big groups in soil classification that we use to divide soils. In this case, about the soil survey orders in the U.S. Virgin Islands, it's bigger groups of soils and their properties. And of course, I would like to show you the tool that we publish all the official soil survey information, as well as other resources that we have available to to share soils, right? So, little bit of NRCS Caribbean Area Soil Science Division. What make us basically do what we do and provide our services is public law, the number 89560, and it's the Soil Survey for Resource Planning and Development Act. It authorized, Congress authorized the USDA, in this case NRCS, to make an inventory of the soil resources of the United States. It keeps the inventory current to meet contemporary needs, interpret the soil's information and make it available in a useful form, and provide technical assistance and promote the use of soil surveys for a wide range of community planning. This is what we're doing today. So how we do this? We do this through the National Cooperative Soil Survey. Even though NRCS leads the soil survey development, this is not done alone by the agency. It is a partnership with federal, regional, state, and local agencies and private entities. We work cooperatively to investigate, inventory, document, classify, interpret, disseminate, and publish information about soils. It's important to mention this because I'm gonna show you that this is nothing new, right? And it has been happening for many years. However, it's not something that has been done completely by USDA, NRCS, or the federal government. There's other parties' involvement in the development of this. As a summary, Caribbean area soil surveys, the Caribbean area, when I say this, it includes Puerto Rico and US Virgin Islands. For those of you that are potentially joining from other islands in the Caribbean, fortunately, the program is for Puerto Rico and US Virgin Islands. They're covered by 4 major land resource areas. What are those? Those are land resource areas that share the geology, climate, land use across, you know, the landscape. And we have, for Puerto Rico and USVI, we have 4, right? The humid coastal plains, the humid mountains and valleys, semi-arid coastal plains, semi-arid mountains and valleys. In the case of US Virgin Islands, we have 2, which are the semi-arid mountains and valleys, and also the semi-arid coastal plains. these are divided by different soil survey areas. These are the MLRAs, Major Land Resource Areas, are, you know, they can go across the landscape, but the soil surveys are divided like they have these political boundaries, right? And we have for Puerto Rico, we have the Arecibo, Mayagüez, San Juan, Ponce, Humacao, El Yunque, and San Germán soil survey areas. And separately, we have the soil survey for U.S. Virgin Islands that include St. Croix, St. John's, and St. Thomas. So what are soil surveys? They basically is a systematic examination, description. We also classify and map soils in a particular area. It is a very, very valuable information for planning and land management, and you're gonna see what I mean by that. It groups soils with similar use and management. We use this term that I'm gonna be referring to it when I run the soil survey maps, that are soil survey map units. These are segments in the landscape that share similar use and management. We also classify the soils according to the standard system of classification, which is the US soil taxonomy. Why we do that? Because it's the way or what we use to communicate as scientists. I remember when I started as a soil scientist, I started in the Fargo, North Dakota Soil Survey Office. And just imagine if I tried to communicate with my former supervisor, Keith Anderson, and say, hey, Keith, I'm working with Victory soils from the U.S. Virgin Islands. He's gonna say Victory. Oh, he's gonna refer that name to a location or something, but that name comes with this classification. It's what you see in the bottom. I'm not gonna read it for you, but it's a classification that includes information about the climate that this soil formed, if it's a young soil, what is the particle size distribution, what is the activity of the mineralogy, and also what temperature and moisture regime these soils develop. And to a scientist, if I read that classification, it will, automatically that scientist will pop that profile, which is a cross section. If I do a whole below me, a cross section of that, he will just make a picture of that profile just after reading that classification. Very important, and it's a very very valuable information that you will find in the soil surveys. They identify important soil characteristics like soil chemical and physical properties, the landscape setting, just given us as an example slope, but it's more complex than that. And they also contain interpretations. I'm gonna talk a little bit more in detail about what those mean. The different soil survey components, you're gonna see that a soil survey, it will include a base map, which is an aerial photography. It will include this soil survey map, which is kind of like the example in this picture here, where you have these different lines that represent the different polygons or map units. And we have the interpretation maps. We use this information to actually summarize and help people understand more information. So you have to pause for a second because I had a little bit of communication contamination here, but those are the basic components of soil survey. Also, we have reports and interpretation tables. You don't only get the map, you get the polygons, but also you get the information summarized in tables. This is an example of one of the reports, which is the soil descriptions or map unit descriptions, where you have, this is a place where you're gonna have basically everything. It's one of the most powerful reports because you get all of the information. In this case, this is soil in Puerto Rico, but you can see the typical profile, which is a clayey soil, right? It has well-drained natural drainage, and it has different other associated soils in that landscape. It's very important that when you're using soil surveys and you happen to be in an area that doesn't refer exactly to what's described in the main component, which is here in the Alonso soil, you may be looking at these other inclusions or other soils that occur in that landscape. As an example of interpretations, they also, soil surveys make predictions about the behavior of soil and highlights soil limitations that affect the different land uses. And this is an example of a retention system, right? And it, the red color is that it's a very limited or severely limited for that application or land use, and the green green will be not limited, and yellow is somewhat limited to help you kind of summarize the information for what you're using it. Now, in terms of soil surveys, there have been making since late 1900s. National Cooperative Soil Survey started in 1899, and just for example, for Puerto Rico, to give you an idea, the first soil survey was published in 1902. But in the case of U.S. Virgin Islands, it was the Reconnaissance Soil Survey for the St. Croix Island that was published in 1932. To give you an idea, for these surveys to be published in 1932, and this is an actual copy, right? A hard copy, printed, professionally printed. For this to happen, this survey had been started to be making in around late, like after 1915, 1918. Later, that survey got different revisions, including the St. Thomas and the St. John Island, and that was published in 1970. Then later, this soil survey got updated in 2000. Now, with West Soil Survey, you're gonna see that the 2000 survey had been digitized, right, and accessible through Web Soil Survey, which is the official version of Soil Survey published data. That you will see what are the benefits of them. But you can see that this information had not been created overnight. We have been collecting information for soil surveys in the Caribbean area for quite a long time. So how are soil surveys made? First, they're developed by soil scientists and through the Cooperative Soil Survey, led by NRCS, right? We describe the first few meters of the earth crust, or 203 centimeters or 80 inches, and we study distribution, the genesis, morphology, classification, chemical, physical, and biological components of the soil. As you can see here, this is this is in dry forest in Huánica, and with my partner here in crime, Samuel Rios, we're describing a profile of the Aguilita soil, collecting all of the information. And we also collect information about the landscape setting, like the slope, drainage, if there's a water table, what type of geology, and also depth to limiting layers. And when I say limiting layers for construction, limiting layers for that could impede like the development of roots for plants, like bedrock or other features, right? Clay pans, so forth. We also collect, for these representative areas, we collect and analyze soil samples of these representative soils. Also develop maps using aerial photography, digital elevation, And these days we use digital elevation models and also geographic information systems to digitize all of the information. We analyze all the information to develop these soil landscape relationships, these segmenting the landscapes that are gonna behave similarly. We group also soils with similar use and management. And for developing all of these, we use the National Cooperative Soil Survey standards, right? This is we have a complete guide with the standards on how to do this job. This is an example of the tools that we use, ArcGIS, to digitize the lines. This is an example of how a map will look. And we also, what we call the tabular data, or the physical, chemical properties and landscape setting. This goes in a database. To give you an idea, we call this database the black hole of soil survey information. There's millions of data points here that had been observed, and this is actually the brain where all of these information get the information they get compared each other, and also where all of these interpretations are developed, combining the information and the landscape setting, for example. This is called the National Soil Information System, NASIS. So, soil survey data sources and applications. We, as an agency, the main official and official data and the main website is Web Soil Survey, but you can find this information being used in different other sources, like in this case, Soil Web, which is a computer application as well, but that one you can download in your cell phone and use the GPS capabilities of the cell phone, and it will tell you what is the soil survey information for that site. We also contain the information in the official series descriptions, soil data access, soil data viewer, soil lab data characterization, which is where we store all of the lab data for physical and chemical engineering properties, and also provide this information through the electronic field office technical guide, which is where the agency actually store the standards, and this is more for conservation planning applications. This is how the website look, the Web Soil Survey. I'm gonna go more in detail in a few minutes. And this is how Soil Web looks. If time allows, I'm gonna try to show both tools so you can see the differences and the advantages of each one of them. So let's talk a little bit about soil orders of the United States Virgin Islands. So these are gonna be the main groupings of soils of the different islands, and I'm gonna go through the different orders. In this case, for example, there's 12 soil survey orders for the that are identified in the world. But in this case, U.S. Virgin Islands contains 6 of them, which are alphisols, antisols, insectisols, mollisols, and vertisols. Actually 5. And I'm gonna talk a little bit about them in the next slides. But you can see the distribution being the mollisols, the soils that occupies the most extent of the island. So in terms of the alphisols, the central concept of them is that they have, I'm not gonna go into these technical details, but it's a layer underneath the profile that it's enriching clay. We call it technically an argillic or candy horizon. And they have a base saturation. That means that you have neutral to high pH, right? It's a more alkaline soils, that is 35% or greater. That for plant growth, it's great, right? And they have this thin surface that is called an ochreic epipedon. But these soils, if you don't have the limitation of depth, like shallow to bedrock, these soils could be very productive. In terms of the empty soils, these are very young soils, right? They don't show evidence of development. Usually are soils that are continually receiving material or forming. Soils that are gonna be developing near like rivers, near like the shore, like the beach, because they're continuously receiving material. We have the insectisols that are soils that want to be something, those soils that are in development. And they're considered also young soils. They usually typically are the most abundant in islands, especially in development islands that are continuously, receiving like the impacts of erosion processes. Like for example, it is the case of Puerto Rico. And the mollisols. Mollisols, if you don't have a limitations, these are gonna be the more fertile soils. These are very good soils for agriculture if you don't have, like I mentioned, bedrock. In the case of St. Croix, you can see these in the soils, scion soils, kind of in the alluvial fens or flatter areas close to Upper Bethlehem in St. Croix. But these are also soils with high base saturation. Usually they're gonna be, with neutral to alkaline pH. They can be very, very productive. As you can see here, they need to have a really nice topsoil. And we have the vertisols. Vertisols are soils, very interesting soils, because as you can see here, these soils, and the word tells you at the beginning, vert, they move, they form through the processes of pedoturbation when the soil is mixing. And why or how they develop that is with the patterns of the drought and the wet portions of the year. When these soils are dry, they crack. They form this crack and they contract. When these soils are wet, they expand. So in that process, these soils tend to mix, right? And this is very important. They tend to be very productive, right? But they are really high in clay. The other thing is that these soils, this is the type of soil you don't want to build a structure over it, because those cracks could actually go deep in the profile. Actually, I have seen sites that you can go 15 to 18 feet deep. And just imagine that crack, what effect will have in a building. It will crack the concrete, actually, and actually destroy roads. But those are the kind of things, right, that knowing a little bit of the different soils, you can start planning on how to use them. Like my counterpart, Samuel Rios, always say, and I like to refer, because his quote is that there's no bad soil or something that you cannot use. It really depends to what you want to use the soil or manage the soil for you to do. And that's the presentation. I just would like to mention that all of our services, and this is very important, we provide them following federal civil rights law, and we provide the different opportunities in an equal manner, and also we're an equal employer or provider, and also lender. So anyway, I'm gonna leave it here, and probably Pamela will, I think this is the point where you might wanna verify with the audience if there's any questions.
Yes. So right now we don't have any open questions, but if anyone would like to submit any questions on this first portion of the web soil survey webinar, we have gotten a great summary from Manuel, and now we're going to be seeing live the platform. So any questions regarding the history or the organization? Oh, here we have one that just popped up. So David is asking us, when reading about the soils of St. Croix, I've read about something called tertiary soils. Can you explain what those are? Let me actually send you via chat the word so you can read it. Maybe you might take a look at that. Manuel, let me show you. Okay, so we're sharing with Manuel the term so he can actually take a look at it. Oh no, so if you look in the chat, you'll see the term that he is asking for.
Yeah, that refers to the tertiary period on geology. And, you know, when we do, and probably when you're reading this from the actual publication, we obviously, the geology is one of the forming factors for soils, right? And we need to consider that. So usually we use those type of terms, and it refers to the tertiary period in geology that I can't recall what was exactly how many million years ago is, but that's how it's referring to, if I'm not mistaken, right? I don't know the reference, but that's to what I can relate it quickly. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, he just said that makes sense, thanks. Perfect. Thank you for your question, David. We have another question that popped up. Jason is asking, how would these web soil survey help the VI?
Absolutely, really good question. It can help you in any type of planning. Soil surveys are just a foundation tool before you do anything. Let's say it's for agriculture, let's say it's for construction. Just knowing the information of those 2 meters, you know, if the soil is fertile or not, or if it's acid or not, can help you out. Hey, you know, I have a saline soil that it has this type of salinity. Should I build a steel building there? You know, that's an example. For example, another example is what I mentioned about the vertisols. You know, if you know that there's a vertisol and it expand and contract, would you build a building there? You probably could, but you will have to remove the material and put the building there. The other thing is, for agriculture, it has direct application, which actually is the main purpose. Soil surveys that were developed mainly for agriculture to identify where those prime farmlands were, right? To channel or target resources to those specific areas. As well, if you know what type of soil you have, you know what type of crops you can grow, right? If you know that the soil doesn't have the fertility to support like cereals or agronomic crops, right? Don't use it for that, because you might be wasting your resources, although that soil might be good to grow, for example, fruit trees. And that's the case in several conditions in the Caribbean area. Like I said, there's no bad soil. It's depending for what you want to use it, and soil survey can help you sort through that. And sorry about my Norwegian accent. Just kidding. But if you don't understand, the longer that I talk English, the less English that pop up for myself. So if I take out a little bit of Spanish word or something, just remind me you're in English. But anyway, let me know if you're not following me of what I'm talking about.
We're wringing you dry of your English. We're sorry. Well, no, thank you for that very detailed explanation, Manuel. So hopefully Jason has a better understanding of how this tool could help him better have an understanding of its own territory and project. So that's fantastic. We have another question. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, Pamela. I just want to say that you're gonna refer to my answer when you see the tool soon now. So
awesome. We have another question. I think that's maybe going to be further explained in the demo. Nate is asking us, do you have an overlay to show us of the location of the public Department of Ag lands in St. Croix, in general, maybe the islands, as they relate to the soil types you just presented?
Yeah, I'm gonna be showing the tool, which, you know, to let you know, we have a soil survey information for the 3 islands. We don't have like the actual boundary of the ag lands for USBI because, you know, that's a layer that is hosted by, you know, by the Commissioner of Agriculture there. However, it's information that could be found and provided, but you can develop soil survey maps in those regions as well. I don't know if you were referring to that. If you were referring to know where are the state like important soils or the prime farmlands, yes, we do have a report that utilizes the soils information and provide you what is considered prime farmland for the USBI. Those are gonna be your best soils for agriculture. And those are the one also that you wanna protect, right? Against urban sprawl and other things. That's your bread and butter for agriculture. You wanna have them protected all the time. Did I answer your question, Nate?
I think so. In the sense, what you're saying is that within the web soil survey, if you already have identified where these public lands are, you might be able to get information from them. But you also have a layer that actually collects the prime land that's in the USDA, yeah. Right? So there's 2 separate things.
Yeah. So in summary, yes, it's an interpretation that you can run in any portion where we have soil survey information. But the layer of the ag land, right, that the United States Virgin Islands has, I think these are lands that are rented or, made available for people to do agriculture. You're not gonna find that information in web soil survey. I know there's other tools, planning tools that USBI has developed, and I don't know if it's DNR or what, or the same Commission of Agriculture division that developed, but it's a really good tool that it could probably have that information there, and but it's not. But if you know, like for example, and I'm gonna show you that the location, like the land and loan or the address, or you can navigate to it and do the soil survey report.
Awesome, thank you. And actually there is a comment on Nate. He says, yes, the university wants to build a building on good farmland, and it appears it is not good soil for building, if I am seeing the locations correctly. So he does have a direct example. Thank you for sharing that, Nate.
Yeah, and that's something that unfortunate, locals, if you can talk to them, sometimes, because of location and availability of land, those things happen. But and all the time, building is not that bad. Making sure that you make it the right way, and also it could be incorporated in a way that you can do both, right? You said, and have urban farming there, leave open space, and at the same time, use it for teaching. I might recall seeing those buildings being built, but always there's opportunities to find common ground for that, So
hopefully that's the case there. So here we have no further open questions for now. We do want to keep in mind that any questions that might pop up during the presentation, please feel free to share. So we might continue to address them as we continue on. Now we're gonna continue with Manuel so he can show us the actual tool. So take it away.
Yeah, and with the questions, I do my best to answer them, right? And sometimes I might not have the answer right away, but I will get back with you, right? If I cannot answer the question, or if you were not satisfied with the answer, right? So I'm gonna stop video here before I go and sharing my screen. Okay, I'm gonna just share where I have the web soul survey. Okay. Okay. So this is how the main page look. Before I advance, I want to point out that in this page, you have other hyperlinks of information, very valuable information. For example, now all of this data is digitized, right? And available through Web Soul Survey. However, this information was published. And if you want to refer the archive Soul Surveys, this is a place you go. And you follow the different links, select the location, and then select the survey that you want to see. For example, the survey of 1932 of US Virgin Islands, it's actually there and scanned, so you can refer to that document. They tend to be really interesting reading materials. And sometimes actually they even have more information, local information and relevant information that could help you answer some of the questions you might be asking that potentially, I don't know, a Web Soul Survey are not answering, but they contain also detailed information. Important to mention that they are not considered official Soul Survey data. For those of you that you're doing like management plans, or even though even you're in a court case, right, where you need to refer Soul Survey information, please do not use those archive Soul Surveys because they're not considered official Soul Survey data, and you might lose the case because not being official. The official Soul Survey information is in Web Soul Survey. And these to my right here, there's other links to different presentations, no Web Soul Survey, no Web Soul Survey operation hours, and so forth. So to start Web Soul Survey, you select the green button. I need to start a new session. And it will bring me to the continental US. There's the first step is to navigate to where you want to do the Soul Survey map. You can do it by address. You can do it by state and county, Soul Survey area. You can do it by latitude and longitude. Please pay attention. Every time I select this, see how they open. And that's how you need to open them to put the information. Or you can go here and view a stand and select the location. In this case, I'm gonna select Virgin Islands, and it will take me right away. You can see the photography underneath. It's important to mention that depending on the zoom in or zoom out, right, it's what photography is gonna use. Soul Survey use different years of photography, and I just wanna make you aware of that. And sometimes they could be, you know, early 2000s, sometimes they're later, like over, you know, 2013, 2014, 2015, or 2004, depending on the zoom, right? If we're more close or farther. The other thing that I want to point out, I mentioned the address. I mentioned that, you know, if you go here in Soul Survey area, you go to, for example, Virgin Islands, and it will ask you to select the only survey that is in Virgin Islands, which is BI 690, right? And the other thing you could do, you can do it by latitude and longitude. And I have one here. I'm gonna write it down. I wanna use this right away. Don't lose the opportunity. And then you need to put a comma, and then I want the longitude. Bear with me here. 48. If you have any question on the formatting for the lat and lorne, these are decimal degrees. But if you wanna refer to other option of units you could use, or coordinates you could use for units, these are the different options, and these are the different examples. What I usually do is copy these and paste it over there, and then change the numbers. But look at all the different ways you could write down your coordinates. I'm gonna hit view and see where it takes me. So let's back up a little bit, zoom out. I'm in St. Thomas. I think this is the Bordeaux area, if I'm not mistaken. It's a very active area for agriculture. So before I move on with the soil survey map, I have, you saw me using these different tools here. This is the interactive map tools. You can zoom in, zoom out, you can pan through the map, you can go to that original view of continental US, you can go back to your previous screen. You can have information of the data that you're looking. For example, if I select information and select the picture, remember I mentioned about it gave me the location, but it also gave me what dates it's the photography that is using right now to what we're seeing. And this area of photography is December 31st, from 2009 to April 16. And I have here, I saw a message from my friend Faye Williams that's the Dorothea area. Thank you, Faye, and saludo. So anyway, that's how you get the information of the area photography. You can measure distance, right? If I want to see the distance from that point to like a landmark, I select it, and in the bottom it will tell me like the feet and kilometers. I can also check the status of soil surveys. I select it, and it tells me that this is a spatial version here is September 16, 2019. And the last two options in my interactive map tools, I have the most important ones to develop the soil survey map. I can do a rectangle or a square map, or I can delineate my area. So I'm gonna try the rectangle. So I hit, or I use my left button in the mouse. I left it press down, okay? I release it, and then when I see this rectangle with the blue lines, that means that I'm ready to advance. Now, if I don't like the map that I did, I hit clear AOI, and it will erase the lines or the AOI, area of interest, that I was drawing. And I'm gonna do now a actual delineation of this hypothetical farm. I'm gonna start here. And every time I hit the left bottom in the mouse, it creates a vertex that help me delineate the area. You can do this in your property. One important note here, soil surveys are made in the Caribbean area at a scale, right? And in this case, all of these soil surveys are done at a 1 to 20,000 scale. What that means is that at this map here, 1 inch represents 20,000 inches in the real life. And you make the calculation, I give you that actual distance. When I'm ready to complete my AOI, I double click the left button and it's thinking, but it's developing the map. Now that I have the blue lines, right, I can advance to the soil survey map. Whoa, what happened? Okay. So in the top, you're gonna have these different segments, right, or tabs. The first one and the first step is selecting that area of interest. The second step is moving to the soil map or the soil data explorer. I'm gonna move to the soil map, and automatically you can see the soil survey map for this Dorothea area. In this case, I have a table, the area of interest table, which it's gonna contain the acres in the AOI that are occupied by each map unit or soil survey map unit or soil, and also the percentage of that specific map unit in that area of interest. In this case, our most abundant soil here is Dorothea Susannaberg. If I wanna, and before I mentioned that, but you're gonna see that these map units are gonna have this name, right? In this case, you see Dorothea dash Susannaberg complex. This is a soil map unit that is mainly occupied by these two types of soils that are within 60 to 90% slopes. These are very steep slopes, and this is they are extremely stony. So this is gonna be a description, quick description of that landscape setting and also that surface texture that is in that map unit. If I wanna have more quick information right away, I select that map unit and I will have a pop-up of that map unit description. Very important that when you're using web soil surveys that you enable pop-ups for this website, because otherwise it's not gonna work, especially when you try to develop a report. But in this case, Dorothea soil, it is it can develop in ridges and hills. It's a back slope, shoulder and summit position. They are, you know, the parent material is weathered volcanic rock, and I don't know why it's, I know it's weathered material, but it shouldn't say that. It should have the actual geology. And also here you have the typical profile. You have clay loam to 0 to 60 inches. And they are well drained. Let's say, you know, you have a little bit of calcium carbonate, which it relates to the pH and alkalinity. It has a sodium absorption ratio. It has a little bit of sodium. So it's giving me all of this information, right, of this soil, right? Now, in the other hand, the Susannaberg, which occupies a similar landscape position, it is a soil that it's a clay loam, right? But at 15 inches, I started to see gravel, and then I have weathered bedrock at 15 inches. So this is a shallow soil. So in terms of planification, right, would you rather put your crops on Dorothea, which is a clay loam profile, or Susannaberg? Or you want to, for agriculture, you want well-drained, deeper soils, right? You have substratum for the plants to grow. So in this case, Dorothea will be a better candidate. And you can use this landscape setting information to locate yourself, right, in that landscape as well. I have forgotten, right, to mention that we also help people interpret this information. If you have any questions on the information in the web soil survey, you can contact myself, but also we have a field office. NRCS has a field office in St. Croix, where the district conservationist, it's Rudy O'Reilly, Mr. Rudy O'Reilly. And also we have Faye Williams, which is a soil conservationist. We have Julie Wright as well. And they can also help you in the process, right? Or refer, if it's a question they cannot answer, they always contact us. So that's our extended hands of us in the U.S. Virgin Islands. So going back to the soil survey map, once I show you how to develop the map, I show you how you have a quick description. I'm gonna show you this tab here, which is called the Soil Data Explorer. So in the Soil Data Explorer is where you're gonna be able to run all of these sort of different interpretations. This is when soil survey gets really exciting. And so you're now hearing a soil scientist talking about this, but it gets really exciting because it's gonna help you summarize the data, right? And help you predict how this soil is gonna behave depending on what you're gonna use it, for what you're gonna use it. For example, let's see if I wanna do a shallow excavation, if it's suitable, the material or not. And remember, in order to enter here, I had all of these different rows. I select that row and I have all of these different options. If I'm ready to see the interpretation, I just hit view rating. And Web Soil Survey is developing this interpretation, and it's gonna tell me with a thematic map if it's suitable, right, for a shallow excavation. And look at the map, it's mainly red. But I wanna relate to what these different colors mean. I select the legend tab, and for example, the soil rating polygon right here is very limited. It's very limited for a shallow excavation. But we have some areas here that are somewhat limited. And let's go to see and check what that means. So you have the option also, along with that map, you have a thematic map, but also you have a table. What that very limited mean, for example, in the BSB is beaches and sandy, which are gonna be along the coast. And the reason here why it's very limited, it's because when you do an excavation in sands, it's very unstable, right? Depth to saturated zone, because you can have a water table, and also it can flood, obviously, right? And you have other soil that is solitude that have other conditions. Let's go to soils that are, for example, Dorothea, the one that we were looking prior. Here, it's very limited because of the slope, because it's dusty and unstable. And remember Susannaberg that we had bedrock? Well, it's gonna tell you that one of the reasons why it's very limited is because Susannaberg is a shallow soil, and it's because of the reason of the shallow to bedrock. A little hint here, you see that by this rating, you see a number. In this case, in this limitation, the closer that number to 1, the more weight that has that limitation in that interpretation. So that's in that case. Let's talk about other interpretations. These are for building site development. Let's do a soil health, right? Let's do organic matter, let's say, okay, let's do organic matter depletion and see this report is ready. We selected that, we're gonna view rating. And here, this report in this case is not ready to view. And there's certain things in the database, and it's important to mention that they're being worked as we speak, right? And some of them are not gonna be available like this one. And there's probably a gap of information in this one, and just bear with us because we're, as we speak, in the development of this, and this section is completely new. Let's go, for example, to land classification. And let's use the, let's use the one that, let me see, taxonomic. No, I'm looking for land management. It was the one that talks about, let's see, the prime farmland, salinity. I cannot find it here. See, I overlook here. So taxonomy, farmland classification. Oh my God, I overlooked it. So if I hit view rating, most of these, once you have a steeper slopes, it might not be, but here it's similar to the one that you saw before. And most of them, because of the slope, are not considered farmland. That doesn't mean you cannot do farming. You can, but based on that specific interpretation that you know, for prime farmland is just that best soil for agriculture. And in this case, we have this CGC, which is Cinnamon Bay Gravelly Loam. This one is considered prime farmland if irrigated. So these are in this, all of this landscape, it's one of the best soils in that area. Again, that doesn't mean that you can do agriculture in these other ones. Anything could be possible, and depending for what you want to use it for agriculture. Usually not. Farmland classification is to do row crops and cereals, you know, and also considers like to use equipment and those kind of things that make it some soils to pump out of the classification. Now, if you want to keep that report, you can, and what you need to do is just add to shopping cart. And let me mention that shopping, when it says shopping cart, it's not that you're gonna be paying for the information. If you go here to the shopping cart, see that it says free. These are completely free services and completely free information. This is part of the services of the federal government. This, you know, there have been many millions of dollars being invested in this type of resources and from taxpayers' money. So it will be a shame if it's you know, if people get charged for it. So it's completely free. Now let's go to and let's move. You can see this, and what the things that I say to people often is that I don't like to open everything first because you don't have the time of the work to do it. Second, because, you know, to provide you to the opportunity so you can do it by yourself. And I tell you to do it after we're done, practice with it, and check these other reports for the area that you have interest. Let's move to the soil properties and qualities. And here you can run reports on soil chemical specific properties and qualities. Let's use, for example, pH. I want to see the average pH of these different soil map units. In this case, we store information by horizon. So it's going to ask you at what depth you want that information. Usually we're interested for agriculture. We're interested in the first 6 inches, 15 centimeters, you know, for those shallow crops, or a little deeper. So I'm going to use 0 here to 15, which are centimeters or 6 inches, and I'm gonna keep the report as default, right? All the different options as default. Something I didn't mention, but if you see here, view description, and you select this, it's gonna tell you what is that report about. and give you a little bit of information. So I'm gonna hit view rating. It's gonna do a thematic map, right, of the different pHs in that region. And in this case, most of the soils are gonna be in the 6s, which are really good pH, right? Right there as almost, that's considered almost neutral, except Jauca sand. This is a sandy anti-soil along the coast that Jaucas, these are calcareous sands. And when I say calcareous, they're really high in calcium carbonate, and they're really, they're alkaline, and the pH are considerably high. But you know, if you want to keep this report, you add to shopping cart, you hit OK. And the same with, you know, physical. Let's go to erosion factors for those of you that do you know, reports or management plans and so forth. Maybe you're interested on these. Soil health, as I mentioned, and so physical, for example, let's do available water capacity. This is the capacity that has the soil to have, based on the particle size distribution of the type of texture, to have water available for plants. So I know water, it's a concern and a resource concern. There's a deficit of water in the US Virgin Islands. So I'm gonna hit here, view rating. Oh, it's asking me what depth. I'm gonna put 0 to 15 and view rating. And this interpretation is, it's water that is available to plants. It's not the capacity of soil to retention the water. It's not only retain the water, but also that it's available. So usually clay soils, people will think that will be the more, you know, clay soils are gonna be the most that it's gonna retain the water, but the clay particle is so tiny, right, that it's gonna hold to that water. It's not gonna be that available. Usually soils that are clay loams, silt loams, silty clay loams are gonna be with higher available water capacities. And these units here are centimeter by centimeter. The important things of these is that you can use this calculation to incorporate it in your, for example, irrigation system design. These are water that is available at field capacity from your soil. Very, very important, right? That are to remember that our soils has the capacity to retain the water. And just a little bit of in a tangent here, but it's important to mention that these type of soils, depending on the management that we give them, it's how, you know, they also they're gonna retain this water. Another feature here that helps soils retain water is organic matter. Those decaying leaves, roots, right, that are decomposing, they became eventually humus and part of the soil, and provide the plants the and provide the soil the opportunity to increase the capacity of water retention. What I'm saying is that if you help the soil build the organic matter, keeping the soil protected, keeping the live roots, keeping the soil undisturbed. I know, and we all know that we need to disturb soil to plant, but the less you disturb the soil, the more you promote the soil to structure itself, and also to maintain this organic matter. For those specific situations, it is really important that you build up on organic matter and maintain those soils protected as much as possible. Sorry for the announcement, but it's important to mention that, because in these very dry conditions and semi-arid conditions, organic matter build-up and soil health practices and management systems are key for success. They're also gonna protect the soil against erosion and other things. And again, let me mention that Faye and Rudy, they can help you guys achieve those goals for your farms. So knock their doors and let us know how we can help. and help you reach those goals on increasing organic matter in your farming operations. But here, for example, we have Dorothea, actually map units being the ones with the highest of AWC. Again, you know, these are gonna be your best areas to, you know, do agriculture, right? And if you wanna keep this information, again, very repetitive, I'm gonna repeat myself several times here, but I want you to know that you, in order to keep the information, you need to add it to the shopping cart, okay? So let's move to the last tab. There's other reports and interpretations here, but I'm gonna let you the opportunity to revisit them later. And the last one is the reports tab. The different, the difference of this tab against the others is that instead of building that thematic map, you can select different reports, right, or information to be posted in the table of contents. For example, let's do physical properties. I want physical soil properties. I select that report. I view soil report, and here you're not gonna see that thematic map, but you're gonna have a more complete table. And it's taking some time, but it can have, you can have the most important physical properties. For example, how much sand, silt, and clay you have, the organic matter content in those soils, natural organic content, right? These are dynamic soil properties, available water, erosion factors, and so forth. So if you wanna, again, if you wanna keep this information, you just add to shopping cart and hit OK. I'm building up my report. There's other reports, but I like to move to other things. See, I have spent like good 25 minutes to half an hour on this, and I want to try to cover other things. But if you have any questions on other things, just let me know. I'm gonna move now to the shopping cart. Remember, I added all of these reports to the shopping cart, right? And I'm just about ready to do my report. When I'm ready, I move to the shopping cart tab and select it. I can wait a little bit until, okay, it's ready. Sorry. So I can put a custom title. Let's do web soil survey workshop. You can put here your farm's name or the client name that you're assisting, depending on your needs, and you have a table of contents, right, that you can customize. I'm gonna keep it as with the default setting. Also, you can do different sizes for the printout. You can also tweak the map scale. I'm gonna keep the whole default settings, and I'm ready to see my report. I click checkout, and I have two options. I can get now the information or download later. What these two different things do, get now, basically I can see the report right away, and download later, if I hit this, it will ask me for my email. I write my email there, and I hit OK, and it will send the information to my email on a zip file. But I want to see it now. Web soil survey is actually putting all of the information together in a PDF report. And given the size of this report, it might take probably 30, 40 seconds. There you go, building. Hopefully you can see this. I'm gonna make the screen a little bit smaller. But but look at the type of report that it prepares for you. It's a complete formal report with the different parts, you know. It has the table of contents, it has the soil map. Relate to the soil map, it has these different numbers. These are the lat and longs that you can print out these and take it to the field. And if you have a GPS or a cell phone that you can see coordinates, you can navigate with that map. You can also have the legend, right? The table of contents for the map unit legend of the different soils. If you want to see the different interpretations, for example, this is a thematic map for the land classification. The soil properties is the pH map I developed, to the point that it also provides all the different references that Web Soil Survey is using to produce this report. And remember, you know, the more things you add, the bigger is the report. In this case, this report is 60 pages. So if you're working with a producer or you want to have it for your farm, you can save it. I will recommend to save it instead of print it out, just to save the trees out there, right? But you can save it. This is a PDF file that you can download the Adobe PDF or Adobe software, which is a free source, and just basically save the report where you have the the folder of of preference. So that's actually all the steps to develop a soil survey map with Web Soil Survey.